of side of the vlog that you don't see. This is my Sunday nights. I bartend. I do that once a week to kind of bring in extra income as well as my other jobs. I work kind of a lot. I work 5 days a week at the cafe that you've seen me work at if you've looked at past vlogs. I do this, and then I also coach climbing. So I have 3 jobs, and I also train on my own and shoot this. So it's just kind of a lot. And now I'm also learning computer programming. So I'm learning coding languages because I'm looking to get into software development. So I just have a lot going on. And I know all of you out there, I'm sure, have a lot going on as well. It's just the climber's life, right? And mine's a little bit interesting. My background, I kind of came from the school of hard knocks. I grew up as a foster kid since I was like 8 years old. I think even 7 was when it gets kind of hazy in my memory. I bounced around until I was 9, and then from 9 till I was about 20, I was in the same foster home. After a certain point, they are no longer kind of like responsible for you. So you kind of go on as an adult, right? And at that point, I was in a band trying to make it big, going for music instead of college. And that caused me to be homeless a few times. And so I went through being homeless. I moved to the city, lived out of my van just so I could be in the city because I loved the city. I thought Chicago was amazing. I didn't want to live in the burbs anymore. So I decided I'd rather live in a car than live out in the burbs. Once my band broke up, I was like, I needed to kind of reinvent myself. And so that's what brought me to the city. I didn't know climbing yet, right? And so I scavenged around the city, found jobs as like a busser, did whatever I could to just kind of make ends meet. Before you knew it, I was managing bars and stuff, and then eventually I found climbing while I was in the bar industry and still figuring out what I was going to do with my life outside of music because I hadn't decided that yet. And climbing just kind of took me by storm, and I would work super late nights till 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, and then I would go straight to the climbing gym when I woke up. And that kind of became my life, and then I found out you can climb outside and all that kind of stuff, and then I got in the climbing industry, started working for climbing gyms, and then I figured out all this stuff about training and that you can improve your climbing, and I got really good and knowledgeable at that kind of stuff, and that led me to where I am now. All in all, it's about not playing yourself as a victim. I could have easily done that. I was a foster kid, I had a rough upbringing, I had a rough time when I was a young adult, and it's all what you focus on, the meaning you put on things in the world and things that affect how you control yourself and how you decide to present yourself into the world. Think about what drives you and what fills you up and do that. It's kind of what has driven me, right? And the people around me, and that's what the climbing community also give us. Climbing community is just so full of heart, and full of love, and full of passion. That's what's so important about it. Keep going strong, going for what you love and what you believe in, and things will work out. I really believe that. But yeah, so I'm closing down the bar. Super excited tomorrow to start shooting again. My finger's good enough to do most climbing. I just can't pull super hard on crimps. But I still am super cautious on what climbs I choose. But days like this, I work pretty late, and then I sleep until I go straight to work at my other job, and then I go straight to the gym after. This is gonna be pretty packed, and I'm gonna take you through the whole experience. I'm ready to get home, finish this beer, and get stoked about climbing tomorrow. So you may have noticed I have 2 different pairs of shoes, and I do that for a reason. I have a relaxed set that I use to warm up in. I'll climb like V0 to V4 or like 510 up to mid 511, and then I'll switch to my aggressive shoes for the harder stuff. Just to kind of, so I don't have to take my shoes off all the time, have to keep taking them off, putting them back on. It kind of saves time. So, pretty simple reason. Look who I found. It's Beck. So today I just finished my warm-up, and I'm looking to do this very powerful, almost campusy V7 that's more on the slopey side. Obviously, actually all of them are slopers. Kind of the focus is to always like look for stuff that is okay to climb with this finger, which is in pretty good shape. But it definitely can't do what Danny's gonna try to do. It's gonna be a power episode.
Power episode. You're gonna mostly campus. I'm gonna 100% campus. I mean, I just don't feel like putting my climbing shoes on. You know, it's one of those days when like, you know, those days where the crux of the day is putting your shoes on. I'm just not gonna do it.
So he's gonna be campusing one of the cave routes. What is it, V7?
Yeah, Cheech said the 7 is in cut, but I realized almost every stance is like opposing hold, so I figured it might just go campus. And disclaimer, I've tried to campus it a couple times. I sort of posed this like an open challenge to my climbing team kids. So far, none of us have been able to do it, but we're gonna see if if today's different.
And it's exciting for me. This is my second day back climbing, and I've kind of tested my finger pretty well, and it's in pretty good shape. So usually on my strength days, I do a bit of up to kind of hard bouldering. Usually like I'll look for a 7 that's not gonna be completely heinous. Work that 1 to 3 times, then I'll go and do my hangboarding. But it kind of gets me ready and like start pulling hard before I really start pulling hard.
Yeah, we got season coming up. Oh, it's almost March.
Gotta keep going.
Yeah, we gotta keep the psych up, have some fun. Yeah. That's what I'm about today.
Yeah.
Missed it. All right, warm up, go. First crux. There we go. There we go. Woo!
Campus of V7.
Psyched.
How'd that feel?
Not easy. Not easy. I'm glad I did it.
What was the hardest part?
Honestly, that last move, like you really have to pull through and like not catch your chest on the corner. Cheech unintentionally set a great campus start. I give it B9 minus campus.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, B9.
I messed up the heel hook because I was supposed to like place the heel hook nice and high. And then I almost, like the first time I tried it, I almost onside it. I went under and it was like super awkward.
Heartbreaker finish.
Yeah. Alright, so Danny took off and now I'm onto my training. And one thing I want to talk about really quickly is how do you kind of come back after kind of a short layoff or a missed session and you have this whole program that you're following. And for me, what I've found is, let's say if I miss a day, I will just take that extra rest day and then go back to where I left off. So that might mean that everything is pushed forward a day. It might add up to, it's not, your peak is no longer to land on that certain day. So at one point you're either going to put 2 days together or you just take one day completely off and just be okay with it. Like, let's say you have a longer layoff, like you have a finger injury or something, kind of restart your training program and restart it in endurance so you can focus on better holds and focus more on technique and use that time to recover, and then do your like light hangs and your like progressive hangs that I have in a link in my most recent video. Work up to kind of where you're going to be at, and you're going to be back before you know it, as long as you're taking care of yourself and slowly building up. Or let's say you have like an injury that you can continue to climb on, or you only had a short layoff. This is where you start to tweak your plan a little bit. Let's say you had, in my instance, I had pull-ups in my routine, but now I had to completely obliterate them because I'm getting a little bit of tendonitis, the medial epicondylitis, which I'll talk at the end of the episode about how I'm rehabbing that. And I had this little finger injury, so that means I can't do any crazy explosive moves to crimps. I gotta be very controlled on my crimps. So when I'm bouldering, I'm focusing on stuff that I can be in control with my crimp stuff. When I'm doing my hangboard stuff, I'm really being in control and careful of how this finger feels. And I'm not going max because my focus right now is to maintain my strength and to not hurt anything in the process. And then continue to work on my energy system stuff, which will be in future episode stuff. But really, it's just like editing your training, dropping some stuff that might be affecting one of the other injuries and working around your injury in a way that's beneficial. If you just definitely can't take the time off, which for me, I'm too close to my season to drop too much, and I've built too much at this point, so I need to continue to train, but just be cognizant and make sure I'm doing everything correctly so that nothing gets re-injured. And that kind of dances around that line a little bit. And in the same way of like, if you're really, really training at your limits, you're going to be on that fine line of injury. And I think the next season I'm going to back off even a little bit more so I can focus more on longevity and stop being like, oh, I just need to do like, improve a few grades this season. It needs to be more about putting in quality efforts, not burning myself out, not deteriorating my attendance. And I think it's really important. I was just listening to a bunch of podcasts lately, and that's one thing that kind of came to mind, is it's better for longevity and not try to go V7 to V10 in one season, because when you have this this goal that's based on how quickly can you get there, injury prone is like the biggest thing. It's okay to want big goals, but I think it's more about understanding what you can handle and making sure not to go to failure and not overloading yourself. So, due to not actually having a hammer or something ideal, I actually kind of hodgepodge and I make things. You can use like a frying pan, you can tape a bunch of things to one end to a stick, and just the right amount of heavy. You don't want it to be too heavy because you actually overdo it. I've overdone it before. So you progressively just make it a little bit more difficult because you want to feel that hurt so good kind of pain, like that almost like slight burning sensation. If it starts to go away, you make the weight heavier so that it activates that feeling again. Put it in the position that aggravates it, which mine is when it's straight, and then slowly lower it. And I can feel it right in there a lot. Bring it down to about here, maybe a little bit overextended, and then bring it up with the other hand, and then continue down. And this should, for most cases, clear it up if you just keep with it a few times a week. I'm no expert, but I know this exercise works. Good to be back. I'll see you on the flip side.